amazing. And I'm so glad Julie, you're here for my community today, this morning, to talk about peace. So welcome everyone. So we're gonna talk a little bit more about Julie's work, what she's doing, how she got into it. And I really want parents to get some information and some tools as well in how you can start teaching your children about peace. And the thing is that this peace education, like Julie was talking earlier, it really begins when children are young. And it is something that ought to be there all the time, not just when a crisis like this happens. You know, peace education is something that is part of, you know, just the general development of the child. And it really begins, like I just wrote a blog earlier this week. I've been talking a lot about this, that it's, you know, begins as babies. It begins when babies are young. And I really truly believe that in order for us to have a more peaceful, harmonious society, just like Dr. Montessori believed in this, that it begins with education. So we don't attain peace by violence, by going to wars, by doing all these things, but we attain peace when we provide children the tools, like Julie's going to talk about, you know, peaceful conflict resolution tools. So it really is, I want everybody to really hear that, how important that is to start young and to use books and music and things that are naturally come to children in terms of the way they learn. So having that said, everybody have your pen and paper ready, because we're going to be talking a lot about good things then, and I want you to be able to write them down and really get some practical tools and information from today. So we'll do an introduction, and then we are going to dive into Julie's books and what they are about. And then at the end, we will have question and answer. The chat is there for you to write your questions and comments even as we go. However, we're probably not going to get to your questions until at the end. So welcome. My guest today is Julie Panthorne, and she is an author. She's a poet. She's a horsewoman. I love that connection that you were making earlier between working with horses, working with animals, working with people, because I think it all comes down to this connection that we create with another being. And so Julie has been really passionate about education for peace, and she has a nonprofit called Growing Communities for Peace that she co-founded with her partner like 10 years ago, or how long ago was that, Julie? Remind me.
Well, Rebecca Janke, my former partner and still cohort, founded Hudson Human Potential Institute in 1982. Mm-hmm. That was a Montessori school. Mm-hmm. My son went there, and I was so inspired. Yeah. When he was in preschool, I said, I would like to help you out and work together with you. So in 1994, we changed the name, and she sold her school, and we went full force into Growing Communities for Peace.
Right.
And we wrote this book, Peacemakers, ABCs for Young Children. Does it appear backwards?
No, we see it the right way. Yeah,
oh,
we see it right way. So amazing organization. You've dedicated your life for peace education, and you've written lots of books. Today we are focusing on the three of them, which I'm really excited to kind of dive deeper into all those characters you have in your books. But really, these books are about teaching children how to be empathetic, how to be compassionate, how to do problem solving and collaboration and peaceful conflict resolution through these wonderful characters that you have in your book. So I'll go over the books real quick, and then we're going to talk about each of them in detail. So there's the Barnyard Buddies for Peace. Do you have that? Can you show us the cover? There's the Barnyard Buddies, Stop for Peace. So this book is about social skills, anger management, and teaching conflict resolution process, which Julie, you will talk about. Then you have the award-winning book called I Can See Peace. And this book won, there it is, this book won was the Indie Human Relations Peace Book of the Year. And I love the idea that you say that peace can be found in any given situation, like when we seek for it. Even right now, we have uprising, we have community violence, we have all these things going on. On the one hand, it is absolutely vital and necessary that people have a voice, and it's great to see that happening. But then there also comes the dark side sometimes with this, which we've seen with the riots and the looting and all these kinds of things. So I love how relevant that book is in terms of finding peace, even when there's a lot of challenges going on. And then the latest book is Barnyard Buddies Meet a Newcomer. And we're going to talk about that too, because that is a really lovely book. And there's a play that is also connected to that book. So let's dive in. So Julie, why is this work important for you? Like, I want to hear from you. Like, why is this important to you?
Well, I think it really all comes down to, I mean, you could go back to my family history of taking in foster children, and my family was just the family that cared. I mean, I just grew up believing that you try to do the right thing. And so when someone came to the church and said, we really are desperately needing foster children, a place for foster kids, my mom said, I'll do that. So, you know, lifelong relationships were made, and my life was changed by those foster children who were wonderful writers. And so I learned how to love books and love writing from them. So that's a big deal for me. But the other piece was, as I grew up, I think I was always a little bit of a boundary pusher. Didn't stay between the lines very successfully. Mm-hmm. And I often felt that no one was willing to listen to my point of view. So then when my son was young, again, you know, trying to stay between the lines was difficult for him. And I found that with the peace education and the listening to each child, there became avenues and outlets for deeper listening and deeper learning from the children. I was thinking about how hard it is for kids today to be heard. In a typical classroom, for example, there are bells ringing constantly, mm-hmm. so that a group of kids can go to a reading class or a math class. There's pullouts for everything. And if you're the teacher in that classroom, you may get used to it. But from my point of view, going in as a guest and trying to do a program or a reading of a book or some musical stuff or whatever, I am pulling out my hair going, oh, how can I even concentrate? How can these kids concentrate? How can you develop community? Now, it's not that I'm saying these are bad things. I'm just saying, wow, maybe at least they could have a peaceful bell instead of a clanging thing.
Right.
You know, it's simple things.
So you really wanted to, you know, children to have a voice and to be heard and to have this peaceful environment. And sounds like that was kind of modeled in your family from early on, this inclusion, just like, you know, Barnyard Buddies Meet a Newcomer, you know, welcoming those, you know, people, welcoming animals who might be in a disadvantaged, abandoned position, you know, just like foster kids are going through a lot of feelings of rejection and abandonment, and what is healing that is that loving connection and attachment and the family home. And that's I think also what's so important right now, because what's going on in our communities is creating such a sense of feeling unsafe, like, you know, kids are hearing things in the news, and now it's kind of like we are in this position and wondering, you know, can, you know, the people who are supposed to, you know, protect us, there was an incident that happened where they were not protecting the citizens. So a lot of controversial stuff happening, and I think it's important to bring this, you know, safety and peace into this. So great. So what do you hope that children get out of these books? Like, what's your goal and vision when you were writing these books? What did you hope that children really get from them?
Well, the reason that I showed you the first book, Peacemakers ABCs, is because our initial approach to this was through teachers.
Mm-hmm.
And then we realized that really where we need to reach children is in their families. And partly that's because I wanted the families to have an opportunity to get the same education.
Yeah.
So in 2016, when I decided to go back with a vengeance, with not, though it's not the right word, but with enthusiasm into growing communities for peace after having taken a break for just it took too much time to take care of the horse business and I was too busy. So I thought things were slowing down and I was getting older. So I'm thinking about, I better get busy with what I really want to do in the world of children. And so I thought books for kids that parents can read with the kids, that's the way to go. So that parents can then become advocates at the school, help bring those materials into the schools. But at the very least, they can sit there with their child on their lap and do some things differently. And like when we created the Barnyard Buddies Stop for Peace, that very simple conflict resolution process is, I have it on t-shirts and stuff. I have it on the one I've got on.
Great, yeah. And we are going to talk about that because I want to go over all those steps so that parents can really, you know, start using this with your kids. And then the books do all of the book comes with the parent guide or just some of them? I know that you have like, is it like a guide or workbook or something like that comes with them? Can you tell us about that?
Yeah, each book comes with a parent guide, a parent and or teacher guide. And two of them come with music in a notation, music notation.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them, the Barnyard Buddies Stop for Peace that I just showed you, that one has all the details of a mentor program because I wanted older kids to be able to go into the younger kid classroom and teach it,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe just read the book to them, or, you know, in whatever environment, so that the mentors would have tools that they might need.
Great. Yeah. So I'm curious, how did you come up with the characters? And is there a barn? Like, is there an actual barn that this barn in the books is based on? I want to know the background story before we start talking about Barnyard Buddies Stop for Peace.
Okay, well, I really, one of my customers took a video of this happening the other day, and I just wished I would have figured out how to post this. Maybe I'll return to that topic at some point. So all the horses are standing out in the rain, and there's one horse under the cover of the lean-to, the shelter. And now this is a plenty big shelter, but he is hogging it, so no one else can really get in. Mm-hmm. And so it was just like oh my gosh, this is lack of resources 101. This is conflict over toys. This is not enough attention from mom and dad. This is whatever. It's just a basic conflict that I want what you have.
Mm-hmm.
And so the Stop for Peace process really grew out of King, one of my horses, standing under the barn roof and hogging all the space.
Wow, I love that story. Yes, because right, it happens everywhere in the animal kingdom, in humans, and wow, that's incredible how that was born. So tell us a little bit about this barnyard books. So there are different animals, there's the farmer, and then things happen. So with the Barnyard Buddies Stop for Peace, tell us a little bit about the story, what happens in that, and then we would love to hear the conflict resolution process, the stop process. Oh, there he is, hugging it. Yes.
There.
Yeah. So how is this situation resolved?
Well, of course, there's a wise old owl,
Of
and
course there is. Yeah.
and she is a peacemaker,
Mm-hmm.
and she has some ideas for how to work this out. So when the animals start getting angry, she says, first thing you need to do is stop and breathe. And
Wow.
so we teach the kids stop
Mm-hmm.
and breathe.
And
And then
that calms the nervous system. We've been talking a lot about breathing, what it does to our nervous system. And the owl sounds like it's our prefrontal cortex, which are underdeveloped in children. They are still developing that part. So the wise owl is really helping them develop and connect with that part of the brain. So love that. So stop and breathe.
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah. And we named the process STOP
Yeah.
so that it would, because really the most important thing is this step. I mean, everything else can work only if this step works. So for example, the protesters who are rioting right now are in this phase where some of them, many of them are so angry, they are just not ready to stop yet.
Mm-hmm.
And as heartbreaking and hard as this is to watch, truly, it takes at least 20 minutes and sometimes 20 years for people to get ready to work out a conflict. I mean, witness conflicts in families where I hate my sister because blah, blah, blah.
Mm-hmm.
And then all of a sudden, maybe on my deathbed, I decide I'm ready to work this out. And let me just tell her how I feel. And so that's the next step. So it's stop and breathe. Tell how you feel. And we created these cubes. Let's see if I get the light right.
Oh, how
that
okay, well, we see that. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so children can learn how to articulate their emotions. And then, of course, if they have a tradition of being heard, they're more likely to use that tool. And we have these scenarios. So I feel angry, for example, when somebody takes my toy, or I like this one, somebody wrecks my work. And so kids can learn through games. We have 20 some games that come with those conflict resolution cubes. And they're just, cardboard, you assemble them. And there are also, just so that you don't think that it's a one-sided operation, there are these cubes, which we kind of call the peaceful ones. So I feel loving when grandma hugs me, or somebody brings me a present, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
Even
anyway,
emotional intelligence to children, really, that's what it is. And, gosh, how much better this world would be if there would be more emotional intelligence, so that when conflicts happen, we can respond emotionally intelligent way. And I love that, with the pictures and teaching children about the emotions, because it's so important to give them the vocabulary that creates integration in the brain. A name it to tame it principle that we talk a lot about here is just giving the name to the feeling. And like you said, I loved what you said, like, sometimes kids are not ready to stop being angry, and they get to be angry. It's important part of the process to allow kids to be angry, for parents to be there to even validate the anger, even if they might have done something wrong. But the feeling is important, and the stop, breathe can start whenever they are ready.
exactly. So, so we, one of the things that's challenging is that people think that the peace table, or any location that you might have in your household or classroom, is a place where you sentence children. Go over to the peace table and solve this problem. Is not it. If they haven't cooled off yet enough to work it out, we have, I used to be able to snap my fingers, but they're a little broken. But we have, I'm going over to the peace thinking chair, gonna activate what's under my hair. I'm gonna talk about ways to care. I'm gonna think about ways to share. Peace rap. Peace rap.
I love
So
that.
it's, the idea is, you're not ready to go to the peace table, and you're not sentenced to go to the peace table, but you do need to think. You want to breathe. You need a little space. Maybe there's a big, comfy chair for you to sit in. Maybe there's some quiet music headphones you can put on in your environment, so that you can wait until the adrenaline has gone. Wait till the amygdala has allowed the proper ingredients to be coming into your brain.
Right.
And then you can tell how you feel.
That's right. So yeah, very important, because sometimes, like oftentimes, we rush too soon to that processing point, or child being able to hear or listen directions. They can't.
You muted yourself. There you go.
Yeah, something is happening. It's like going in and out. Not sure why, but it takes 20 to 30 minutes for
Yes.
those stress hormones to leave our bodies. So parents, I hope you hear this, that time when the child is angry, is dysregulated, is not a time to talk, not time to use any words. I love the peace table wrap. And what if we could do same for bath time? What if we could do same for a lot of things? Making things fun and playful for children. They are more likely to actually follow directions, and this prevents power struggles. This is a peaceful way of getting children to do what we, need them to do.
Yes. And just like working with any other animal, it takes so much thought. I mean, parenting and teaching are both extremely challenging jobs. I just borrowed my son's dog. I babysat him for a week, and I thought, holy mackerel, I'm glad horses aren't this smart. It's just really a challenge to stay in front of him and to know how to react when he digs in his heels, just like with a child.
Exactly, yes. Our brains are kind of like the brains of the mammals, are kind of similar. We have that reactivity part. We really do. And that's nature. And I talk a lot about this, like, don't fight nature. We can't fight nature. We have to go with the nature. We have to go with the flow. So let's go back into the stop process. So what are the other steps after? So
stop,
stop,
breathing, tell how you feel, open your mind, Gotta take the lid off, open your mind. And so this is a super fun step, and I love to have people, if they can dig up a rain stick or something else that makes the sound of rain.
I have one here.
She's like,
of course, yes. Yeah. So this is what she's talking about.
exactly. Exactly. That's a lovely one.
Oh, I love this. It's so much fun to have a play office. I get to play every day.
Well, and so what we have done with that stick is teach the children that the rainstorm that they hear with the stick that you just rotated is a brainstorm. It's raining ideas in their head. And the song that goes with it is, we're having a brainstorm, not a rainstorm. It's brainstorming today. And so the kids get the idea and they remember it. Everything has to be memorable. So now we're brainstorming and there's no rules, anything goes. You can say any crazy idea that you want to say. But when we come to the last step and we choose a solution and plan a deal, that has to be a solution that's good for me, good for you, and good for the community. So anything that was too crazy wild gets eliminated or edited or combined. And during the brainstorming process, the teacher or parent doesn't get to be the one that has all the ideas and doesn't get to be the one that edits them. And that's a really important piece as well. So the last step is plan a deal. And this is tricky. I may have to change this, but for now it's a shake. Plan a deal, yay. And the yay part is very important because when we have conflict, we always think we're bad. Oh, we are such bad people that we don't get along all the time. Really? Looks like life to me. All you have to do is go out in the barnyard and you see one argument after another. But do they beat each other up all the time? No, they work it out. They have their own little methods. It's not very formalized or scientific. But it comes down to, we have our plan. And so once they've worked out a deal, children can shake on it and celebrate that they actually worked it out. Have a pizza party, have a salad party, have something, a walk in the woods together, have something great that they like, so they can be so excited. Hey, Sally and Jeff went over the piece table and they worked out their problem. Let's cheer for them as a classroom. And tomorrow I'll bring in a special celebration and we'll all celebrate Sally and Jeff. So that it's not Sally and Jeff had a problem, they were punished, they had to go to the peace table. No, 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 no. That is completely wrong. So that's my belief.
I love that. And so I hope that so people hear that this is really a process. So when there is conflict, it's the role of parents, of adults, teachers to really guide and support kids through them, but give them the power, like you said, give them the power to come up with solutions, to come up with ideas. And there is no need for parents to be policing the kids all the time. Like I worked in a preschool, 24 kids, little 3 to 6 year olds, and they came up with much better ideas for their solutions for their problems, like stuff that I would never think about even. So I could just sit back and be there as an emotional support, facilitate the process. But other than that, it empowering the children to go through this. And I think I love that there's this kind of like the song related to the process and kind of little hand movements and things that you teach, because it's really about this repetition for children, that this kind of over time sinks in
Yes.
terms of how to do this process. So great.
Yep. And that is a really important point, because you mentioned it earlier. Children have to be taught these skills. So if they're not like born with the rule book or the instruction manual on how to solve their problems peacefully. Most children develop their conflict resolution styles really young. It's frightening how young it is, because some say it's as young as 18 months. I'm choosing not to believe that, because our books are targeted for ages 3 to 8. But the way that they learn their style is from the parents. So the best way that parents can prepare for having children is to work on their own style of working out their problems, so that when they're having conflict, it's just automatic. You don't have a temper tantrum, or if you do, you go somewhere privately and yell at the wall or whatever you want to. But you don't say and do things that will hurt others in the meanwhile. And so this is a habit, a tradition in the family. It becomes a tradition in the classroom. Hey, what an idea. It could become a tradition in America and in other countries. Hey, we could be a leader on peace instead of some of the things that we've been leading on, especially lately.
Yeah, right. We can, and that's where it starts. The culture of peace is created in the family, and then there is a ripple effect out into the classroom, out into the community. When children grow up in these, just like you, Julie, in your family, these were values, and you've grown up to be a peace advocate, a compassionate, kind human being. And this is why I love this work with parents, because it's so important. This, I want, it's really hard, but it is important job. Really, parents are the ones who are like raising the next generation and the humanity, kind of like where we are heading as a humankind. So this is why this is such an important message, and I love your contribution to it. So let's move on to the next book. Was there anything else? Those were the steps, right, for the stock process?
Yes, and I just wanted to say that if you want to wear your commitment to this, we do have these t-shirts, and you can get them. Can you see that?
Yep.
Is it working? On our website at the Cafe Press store, or Cafe, what's it called? Cafe something shop. Okay. On Smart Tools for Life is the website for that.
So smarttoolsforlife.com.
Yes.
Okay.
Growing Communities for Peace is .org. And one of these days we're going to figure out how we're going to merge these properly. But most of the resources are at smarttoolsforlife.com.
Okay, great. So go ahead.
Go ahead.
So everybody can head there and can purchase these resources from that website, smarttoolsforlife.com.
And I wanted to make sure that everybody who was on the call today got an opportunity to get these resources at a discount.
Yay, okay.
So
how can they do that? How can parents get the discount?
Right. If you go to the website, this is the only way I could figure out to do it. So I hope this works for you. And scroll down and join the mailing list. Then you will be sent a link. Click on that link and buy your products on that link.
Oh, great.
And that will work.
Great. So sign up for the mailing list. You will get a link. Click on that link, and that will give the discount then for everybody. And how much is the discount, Julie?
Well, it's 20% to some things are 50% off.
Wow, that is so generous. Thank you so much.
Well, and if I made a mistake or it doesn't work or something goes haywire, just email me, Julie@smarttoolsforlife.
Great. Thank you. Yeah, and well, yeah, great. So how about I Can See Peace? Tell us about that book, and what's the message of that book, and what kind of tools and skills are children learning in that book?
This book ties in with the first book because, you know, in the stop process, you have to be able to stop. Well, that's really hard, not only because of chemicals in your brain, but because, as you know, being a yoga teacher and doing all the things that you do, children have to learn the skills for seeing and being peace. And so we took that idea and put it in a rhyming story. Let's see.
Could you read us like just a piece? Oh,
Let me.
love the illustrations.
The same illustrator did all the books. And you asked earlier about the creation of the characters for the Barnyard Buddies. You know, we went back and forth a lot, and she was just wonderful to work with. And I wanted something that wasn't too terribly anthropomorphized, but was more real. And so that's what we came up with. So this is I Can See Peace. It's all around me. I can see peace in the birds and the trees. I can see peace in a warm, sunny day. I can see peace in the clouds far away. You can see we're trying to incorporate diversity in every way. I can see peace in the dog and the horse. I see peace most when I'm happy, of course. I can find peace in a soft, gentle rain. Peace can be found again and again.
Wow, beautiful. I love that.
I can find peace in a smile or a look. I can find peace on the page of a book. Now you can imagine.
Really like teaching mindfulness, you know, connecting with what surrounds us and becoming aware of that and finding those moments of really beauty in life and peace in this case.
I want to read just a couple more pages because this is really an important piece that we put in this book that makes this book rather. So here's this young man who's sailing his boats down the little gully next to the curb, and he is now having his little boat stolen. But peace can get interrupted, you see. And this is by nature, by fights in my own family. It's not always peaceful. But I have the power and the wisdom to seek the tools to solve things peacefully. I calm myself when I breathe in and out. Sometimes I can see peace all about. I can find peace in my own smile or grin, and then I see peace begins from within. Sorry, I'm reading the whole thing. With love in my heart and peace on my mind, I can find peace almost any time. I may struggle to find peace right now, but if I keep seeking, I'll find it somehow. So here's the little girl with her grandparents instead of her parents. That's the fighting family. Here's the kid who stole the boat. And this is the girl who had to run from the rainstorm. And so what's fun about this book is it lets the kids, if you read it many times, they find more and more cool stuff in it every time they go through it. It's kind of a mystery book.
I love that. And with the illustrations, every page can spark a conversation, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like you read it and then you engage with the child and what do they see? This is what I see. Where did you see peace today? And then starting to connect that to what the child observes and sees in their environment. Beautiful.
I was I'm trying to remember who said this, but Often parents will ask their children, how did it go at school today? What were your grades? How did you do on this test? And maybe the better question is, what did you do to be helpful today? Or how did you share compassion today? Or what did you do that was kind? Or maybe, how did you see peace? And so you're framing things all the time in ways that are positive for children.
Yeah, you bring awareness to that. It's like the flashlight of awareness. Our mind is like a flashlight, and it's up to us, where do we point it? And we can help children to point it at those, moments of compassion, kindness. And this is anytime we, or any human being, anytime we think about some, positive interaction or positive event, it lights up that part of our brain. And with children, their brain is growing. There is this principle, what fires together wires together, and we want to wire peaceful brains. And the way we do that, we talk about it a lot, like you said, Julie. Everyday conversations, every day having these conversations, bringing the awareness to those moments in the day. Absolutely. Versus, maybe, talking and a lot of complaining. Like sometimes people don't realize, like, venting is helpful. It's good to get off steam, but sometimes the venting ends up being just a lot of complaining, which means your brain is in that state then. People are recreating the stressful state. Adults do that, kids do that too. So not to get stuck in that. Great.
Very, very good.
Beautiful. Okay, so next one. Barnyard buddies meet a newcomer. There is this abandoned dog looking for a new home, right?
So the backstory, the way that I saw this story come to be, was that, Flint, Michigan is not the only place on the planet that has a lack of water. At certain times they had water, but you'd have to drink the lead that came with it. And so in the backstory, the way I tell kids when I go into the classroom to read this story, I pretend I'm the mother and the son that are driving away in this pickup. And the mother says, "The water is bad, Charlie, and I don't know what to do. We've got to leave this town, and we can't take Blue." That's, of course, the dog. Mm-hmm. And Charlie's crying. I put on my Charlie hat, "Mama." And so the kids right away get into the idea that sometimes things are beyond your control. Now, at the end of the book, we process, what could you do besides leave your dog at the side of the road? Because that's not really a good idea. It's not a viable option. But, I don't think it's a bad question to ask, what could you do besides that? Although some people have argued with that language. I've actually taken it out of the book because of that. Because Mr. Rogers used to always say, what could you do besides hitting? It wasn't like hitting was an option. It was just that it's an option for kids. Sometimes that gets back to the brainstorming. We're censoring and curtailing before we even begin. So I wanted to throw that out there, that the kids don't know that that's not a great option. They don't know what the other ideas are. And that's why you go through the parent and teacher guide. But so he wanders into the barnyard and they don't want to take him in. Jim, he's a grumpy old farmer and there's not enough food to share. And so they try to send him on his way. Some of the animals want to keep him, but here's old Dot and Gray Donkey, and they're like, dogs bite horses, so they say. Makes us worry, he can't stay. So this is a very key page in the book. this is where Old Dot and Gray Donkey agree, they consent to try to let him stay overnight and kind of try it out. And this is the first step for consensus decision making that children learn. And we go through, of course, at the end of the book, a lot more education about that you can pursue or not. But giving children a taste that, look, something is not going to be rammed down your throat. If you don't agree with it, speak up. And let's see if we can modify our decision, our approach, our agreement, so that you can agree with it. So what the owl, the wise owl, got Old Dot and Gray Donkey to agree to was a short stay. And then they go through the evening, and soon enough, Farmer Jim runs into this dog, and he does not know what to do. But the dog has rescued the chickens from the coyote, and Jim is remembering that he has had a wonderful friend in a dog he had in the past. So ultimately, there's a happy ending.
Yes. So teaches inclusiveness, to be flexible. One of the important things that, we want to teach children is what's called cognitive flexibility, because naturally where children are with their cognitive development, it's very concrete. It's either or. The dog can't stay, dog needs to go.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
here there was this, okay, there is middle ground. We'll give him one night to stay and see what happens.
Yes, exactly. So the reason that book is important, particularly, well, that book came about because it was, I knew I was going to write it in 2016 when we were struggling at the border with how we're going to treat our immigrant population. And separating children from adults and things like that was very hard to watch. So I knew I wanted to write something about that, but I'm not an immigrant, so I had to write it in a different way. And then as I got into the book, I realized it doesn't matter if you're an immigrant. I went to a classroom not too long ago, and one kid, he was a second grader, and he had been in 5 schools. So he was a newcomer all that many times. And, with so much disruption from economic woes, people moving to find a new job or getting kicked out of their home, or maybe they got a drug problem and somebody goes to jail or whatever, these kids are disrupted and now they're a newcomer. And so schools need this book. They need to have a way that they're going to have to deal with the new kids as they come in, and how they're going to plan to treat them. And all that is gone over in the parent-teacher guide. But the key ingredient is developing the empathy. I mean, there's hardly anybody who can read that book and not feel something for that dog.
Right, exactly. And it's, especially right now, so much needed, because sometimes it's the being different is looked as threatening, versus we want to teach children that being different and looking different, being from a different country, being of a different cultural background, being of a different race, that it is something that we can embrace and be inclusive and accepting about that. So I think that book taps, blue is kind of like a archetypal symbol for all that.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly right. Yep.
And so it teaches that. And I kind of get a sense too that it can heal, like everybody has moments of having felt abandoned. Every single person has a moment of having felt abandoned or rejected. And it is, I feel like this book is kind of like a healing moment. So there's two layers. There's that inner healing for our own abandonment and the child's own abandonment, and teaching this inclusivity and acceptance and kindness, compassion, opening the doors. Even Farmer Jim, who was first, wasn't sure how he was going to do it, even he opens, didn't he say, like, he opens his heart, kind of opens his heart to Blue.
Yes. In the play version of this, which if you go to my website, smarttoolsforlife.com, you'll see this Zoom play that amazingly was produced by Julia Amundsen, who's a local theater student who happens to teach little kids as well. And she was willing to turn this book into a play. So we wrote a script together and I wrote some music for it. And the play is neat because it brings in a little more dimension than what actually even the book does. Because at the end of the play, Jim sings, "Hello, Blue, I'm a lot like you. Hello, Blue, I've been lonely too. Hello, Blue, could it be you're someone who loves me?" And so Jim, poor thing, he was closed in his heart too. And because Blue did a kind thing, that opened his heart.
Exactly. The play is so cute. I watched it this morning and it's really cute and it's so creative, doing a play at these times of social distancing over Zoom.
Yeah.
It's really fun. So I really encourage parents to go there. And it's on your website, on the smarttoolsforlife.com. And Maria, thank you so much for putting the link to the smarttoolsforlife.com there. And if you go and find where to sign up for the newsletter, that's how you will get that lovely, wonderful discount code. So wow, I feel peaceful, and I just feel this warmth in my heart just talking about this. And I hope that, this is really giving a lot of different ideas for parents in terms of how to work with their kids, to teach them peaceful ways of being, peaceful conflict resolution. And these are really good. Parents really need these kinds of tools to help them. The lives are busy, lives are busy. There's so much going on. So to have these kind of things ready for parents is so, so important. So we're gonna start wrapping up here. I do want to open it just for a couple of questions, but was there anything else that you wanted to share with the listeners today, Julie?
Well, I think given the riots and everything going on right now over the George Floyd killing, we can't completely not mention that and talk about that. And something that came to my mind about that was a song that I wrote, and it's on the Songs for Peace CD. And it's called I Can Make Peace All Over the Land. And it's the idea that children can be an important vehicle for making the changes that we need to see. And really and truly, maybe they are the only vehicle. We're always going to have entrenched adult ideas. It's so hard for us to change. Think how hard it is for us to diet, for example. Just change our eating habits and to change how we believe and feel about others. It's a lot easier to work with kids. So let's help them, hold them on your lap, read good books to them, play good music, and let them lead us forward into a new tomorrow.
Absolutely. Beautiful. I 100% believe in that too. And like I started the session today, is that this is something that is, part of like day-to-day interactions with kids, not just at tragic times like this when things happen in a community, but constantly, all the time. It's like, have these books in your bookshelf, and these are the books that I read every night among some other really great books too. So, and like we talked, it begins early because yeah, you were, Julie, you were saying like, oh gosh, these children experiencing conflict starts early on, and it starts right around the age when the ego starts to develop, and the parts of when kids start going, no, that's my toy, not my toy. Okay, now we're gonna need some conflict resolution already there. And as adults, we still do that. My land, my this, my that. So teaching children that there are these other ways, other solutions, opening the mind, like the stop process talks about that, coming up with the plan.
I think you made some really great points in your article and your blog about Maria Montessori.
Yeah.
And, I think here is your quote: the foundation for the selfhood is laid between the ages of 0 and 6, where the mind is absorbent. And that is exactly why we want to flood the airwaves of the little child's mind with these peaceful things,
Right.
and experiences and skill development, so that those 3-year-olds just right away know, we just go work it out. We can do it. Now, one of the questions I've been asked a lot is, how do you deal with these acting out kids? And what do you do? I mean, when you are a specialist in every kind of behavior challenge. And I think that's an amazing resource. And so I'm so grateful that you do what you do. And I want to point out that what I do with the peace education, I think, empowers children so that they don't have to rage as much. And when I've been in classrooms where kids they just want to talk forever, and you got these stupid bells going off and you don't have any time. Maria Montessori gave kids 3-hour blocks of time to work on something.
Yeah, free work on what you want to work. Montessori day starts, what would you like to do today? And the child chooses. There is no control. And we know that one of the emotional needs of children is the sense of power and control. When children don't have that, we see that aggression. And, same happening in a larger society scale too. When people feel controlled and don't have the power, they will seek that power in whatever way possible.
Yes.
Very yes. So, okay, we are going to take a couple questions, and I have a question here from earlier. And so Luisa, so type your questions either in the chat or in the Q&A. We can go over a couple of these for the next, let's take 5 to 10 minutes to answer questions. So Luisa asks, Julie, what's your perspective on talking to kids about the violence they are seeing in their own communities, especially in the light of the protests across the United States? So I guess Luisa is asking like a more detailed or more specifically, like how do we talk to kids about that? Because kids see that, they literally, like, here in San Diego, we've had, like in many communities, but in San Diego and especially in La Mesa here, we've got lots of protesters that turned into violence and looting, and banks were burned, cars were burned. And I talked to one of my clients yesterday. This was like, they could literally see that from the window happening. So what ideas do you have in terms of talking to kids about what's going on right now?
Well, every child needs the basic Maslow's pyramid.
Yeah.
And one of the very first things is this safety. And so when they look at a situation like this, they're thinking, wow, am I not safe? And so parents have got to, and right now it's very hard for parents to reassure children that they're safe, that we have a functioning government that will protect them. What I believe is really important to share with kids right now is that they are our future and they need to learn these skills because they are going to bring us a better, more peaceful tomorrow. Someone that I was listening to NPR this morning, and it was such a wonderful little story. This father told his son, you know, you were born with your fists clenched. Babies are born with their fists clenched. And as they begin to unclench those fists, that's when they begin to give all their gifts to the world. And so as you, as a child, look at this, instead of thinking what's happening to me, if it's not happening to you right now, I mean, obviously you have to get to safety if it is. But if you're in a physically safe location where you can process with kids this idea of your hands are going to be the ones that can give this something different. You will not be a person that would put your knee on someone's neck. You will not be a person who feels so frustrated and outraged that you have to burn down a building. You will be a child that has skills that you can do other things. So, you know, because you mentioned, well, kids really see everything in terms of themselves. So, Louisa, when you ask, how do you talk to kids about this? Really, they only want to know how it's impacting them right now. Like older kids, teenagers and stuff, they can see the bigger picture. But the little kids, they just want to know that they're safe and how mommy and daddy are handling it, or whoever they're living with is handling it, is the most important. So are you part of the protest? Are you stepping up for peace? Because that's a wonderful way to role model. Not necessarily if you're throwing a Molotov cocktail through a window. But that said, I mean, I don't hold with violent protest, but it's not because I don't understand it. I can definitely see how that rage could get that extreme. It's like, are you kidding? At this point in our societal life, we still have this. So,
yeah.
I don't know if I answered your question, Louisa. I'm sure Paula has a much better answer.
Your answer is just perfect. So it starts with creating a sense of safety, which is important, reassuring that the child is safe and that adults are doing what they can to, you know, handle the situation. Especially young children, they really don't need to know the details. They don't need to see the news. Protect young kids from exposure to this, because when they see these fires and they see these videos of George Floyd and what's going on, they can't process that. Their brain and their life experience is not there yet. We can't. For adults, it's hard. Like, I protect myself. I pick and choose, like, very limited. I know what's going on, but I'm not going to sit in front of the TV or in social media hours on end, because that is very disturbing, even for an adult. So this bringing the sense of safety. And then when kids are starting to get older, so let's say they are somewhere like 7, 8, 9, you can start talking more about things, what's going on. People make mistakes. The police officers, what they did was wrong, and having this kind of talk. And I like your idea of empowering children, like, this is not something that you would never do, and this is why peace and talking about peace is family it's important in our family. And yes, if there is, like, I watched in the news, so in La Mesa, when this destruction happened and it looked like a war zone, next day thousands and thousands of people from the communities around went and cleaned up. When your kid is older, bring them with you. You know, bring
Exactly.
teenagers, bring them with you, because there is such a sense of unsafety and feeling out of like control. So things like that can help bring that sense of empowerment and control, and you know, I'm doing something about that. So
Yeah.
it's really like the I guess the main formula is being you know, kind of uh, your communication is going to depend on your child's age. With the younger one, they really don't need to know the details, and then kind of the older children get, the more you can kind of talk about. And especially with teenagers, they love to start talking about politics, and they love to talk about, they really, they are such amazing activists, really, teenagers are. It's a natural developmental state where they are figuring out who are they in this world, how do they, where do they belong, what's going on in the society. And so it's a wonderful opportunity to really have like open-minded discussions with teenagers about these things. So, but the important piece is to talk about it. It's better to talk about it than not to talk about it. Same like we were talking a lot about the COVID and how to talk to kids about that. Many parents felt like, yeah, I don't want to talk about it because it's going to stress kids out. Not talking about it is actually going to stress kids out because they see what's going on anyway. So hopefully that gives some ideas. And there is what Julie, thank you for reading my blog. So in my blog, I also go into detail, like, you know, 10 different ways to talk to kids about peace and begin this peace education and really raise peaceful human beings so we can have a harmonious, peaceful society as well, you know. Great. Any other questions? I didn't see any other questions coming through. Thank you everyone for participating. Julie, what's your email? Could you type it? Can you type it in the chat before we jump off? Just type your email so that people have that.
Oops. Oops, I think I made another mistake.
It's all the pressure. Like, oh, okay, now, right.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay. So Julie at smarttoolsforlife.com. The website is smarttoolsforlife.com. Go sign up for the newsletter to get your discount code and have access to all these wonderful resources for peace education for children.
Yeah, thank you so much, Paula. I really appreciate it. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Thank you for taking your time and your contribution. This is just a wonderful, like, you know, I feel your passion, and I feel that how dedicated you are to this. And I love how you've made it fun. There's music, and there's singing and music and all these different ways for, you know, the ways that children learn, you know, about these things. So because kids don't learn like, you need to stop taking your brother's toy, you know. No, that's not the way. That doesn't work.
Right. Well, that piece about memorability, my dad has Alzheimer's, and he's very, very far down that path right now.
Mm-hmm.
But he's had it now, I think, for 13 years. And up until just last year, he knew the words to every song he ever learned. So I believe that if we play these CDs over and over for the kids, I mean, the I Stop for Peace CD is a turnkey operation. The parent doesn't even need to teach the process. There's short children's dialogues, there's songs, there's the owl talking, and the children are guided completely through the process. So I think that's a particularly useful resource for the busy parent.
Great. Love that. Love that. Okay, great. We will finish with that. If there are any other questions, you can email me. You can email Julie. The email, hopefully, Annette, I wrote the email so that it went out to everybody. So Julie at smarttoolsforlife.com. And yeah, may you all be at peace today. Great, Annette, you got that.
Thank
So
you so much. Appreciate it.
thank you so much. And yeah, let's all make an intention to be peaceful. And when we are peaceful, the children will also be peaceful. So it begins with us and how we carry ourselves, right?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you so much, Julie. Bye bye now, everyone.
Take care.
Take care. Bye bye.